He proposed to me in front of 300 people, but he already had a wife. I didn't scream, I didn't faint. I smiled, kissed him on the cheek, whispered, "You'll regret this," and walked off the stage, leaving behind the fairy tale that turned into my most humiliating nightmare. My name is Madison Clark. I'm 35. I run my own digital PR agency in Seattle. Known for helping clean up other people's reputations, ironically, I never thought I'd be the one fighting to salvage mine. It all started in my office. A minimalist, open space lit by warm amber bulbs and a scent of lavender always drifting through the air. My assistant, Zoe, 26, fierce and intuitive, was on her third espresso when she barged in that morning with a phone in her hand, and a look I'd never seen before. "Madison, this video's going viral, you need to see this." Her voice was low, strained. I took the phone. It was a TikTok video, a woman laughing, surrounded by friends, showing off an engagement ring. "My ring," the caption. "When your husband proposes to someone else on your anniversary." I watched it in silence. My hands didn't shake, my face didn't flinch, but inside something snapped. His name was Brandon Walsh, 38, real estate mogul. Charismatic, sharp, everyone's favorite golden boy. I met him at a charity gala 2 years ago. He called me his light in the chaos. And every week, he lit more candles and poured more wine, building this perfect image of love. He was meticulous, romantic, disarming, and a master manipulator. My best friend Elise, a clinical psychologist with a tendency to overanalyze, always had doubts. "He's too polished. Like perfect men like that either kill people or hide something worse." I laughed it off back then. We all did. But now, as the image of that woman with my ring played over and over on every platform, Elise's words rang in my ears like a warning I'd ignored. I confronted Brandon that evening at the restaurant where we had our Thursday night tradition. He wore navy, always navy, and he had the same confident grin as he stood up to hug me. "You're early," he said, kissing my cheek. "You're married," I replied calmly. He blinked, then without missing a beat he sat down. "Let's talk about this." That was the moment I knew. He wasn't going to deny it, he wasn't even sorry. "It was complicated," he said. "We're separated, she's just bitter. She made that video to destroy me." Zoe's voice echoed in my head, "You need to see this." The woman in the video wasn't bitter, she was broken. Elise called me later that night. "You're too calm." "That scares me." "I don't rage," I said, "I strategize." The next few days were a blur of whispers, stares, client cancellations. Brandon was powerful, and now my name was tied to his scandal. I started losing contracts. My company's image, built so carefully, was now at risk because I had loved a liar. But what haunted me the most wasn't the humiliation. It was that I had defended him, even to myself, even when small things didn't add up. The frequent business trips, the midnight phone calls, the ring he said he bought spontaneously but matched an antique collection his wife's family owned. How did I not see it? Or worse, did I choose not to? Late one night, as I sat in my apartment with the city's lights dancing across the window panes, I stared at a framed photo of us from Italy. Venice. Smiling, perfect. Was it all fake? And more importantly, if he could do this without blinking, what else was he hiding? I asked myself a single question, one that changed everything. If I could rebuild other people's reputations using digital footprints, could I also use the same tools to destroy his? Would you watch a man unravel under the weight of his own lies, if you were the one holding the thread? Because I did. Elise showed up at my door the next morning with her usual oat milk latte and a folder labeled receipts. She wasn't the type to gloat, but the tilt of her eyebrow told me she was holding back a very satisfying "I told you so." "I started digging the moment I saw that video," she said, tossing the folder on my kitchen counter. "I don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes, but Brandon, he's been living a double life longer than you've even known him." I flipped open the folder: airline tickets, duplicate credit card charges, an apartment lease under a different name, all tied to a woman named Rachel Whitman, his actual wife. "Wait, you said they were separated," I muttered, reading through the lease. "Nope, not even close," Elise replied, sipping her coffee. "I called Rachel pretending to be from a wedding venue. She's still wearing her ring." That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when Zoe burst through the door 10 minutes later, cheeks flushed from running, phone clutched in her hand like it was a grenade. "Madison," she panted, "I just got a call from Carter and Wells. They're pulling out all 5 accounts." My stomach turned. Carter and Wells was one of our biggest clients. Without them, we'd lose nearly a quarter of our revenue. And just like that, the damage wasn't just personal, it was professional. Elise crossed her arms. That's not a coincidence, he's sabotaging you. Zoe nodded, and I think he's using a burner account to spread things online. Look at this Reddit thread. She handed me the phone. A user named West Coast Insider had posted detailed accusations, false ones, about me manipulating public narratives for personal gain. It was too specific. Too targeted. Brandon always said, perception is reality. Now he was weaponizing it against me. He wasn't just a liar, he was a strategist. At that moment, everything clicked. The dinner parties he insisted on planning. The network of friends who suddenly ghosted me. The time he accidentally sent an email from his work account with a confidential client pitch, one I later found in a competitor's hands. He had been building his empire on deception. And I was the perfect cover. The successful woman, well-connected, clean image, his trophy of legitimacy, but I wasn't going to be his casualty. I need to talk to Rachel, I said quietly, eyes fixed on the ceiling like the answer was painted up there. Elise didn't hesitate. You sure about that? She might not believe you. I don't need her to believe me, I said. I just need her to talk. 2 days later, we met in a quiet cafe on the north end of town. Rachel was tall, elegant, and heartbreakingly tired. She wore sunglasses inside and kept glancing at the door like she expected someone to follow her. You're the other woman, she said bluntly. No, I replied. I was just the next lie. She paused, her mouth twitching. He told me you were obsessed with him, that you tried to ruin our marriage. And he told me you were bitter and divorced. We sat in silence for a moment, both stunned by the same man's ability to craft parallel realities. Rachel reached into her purse and pulled out a small flash drive. This has recordings, phone calls, emails. I've been collecting them for a while. I didn't know what to do with them until now. I took the drive with both hands. Thank you. She stood up, burn him. Later that night, I played the files on my laptop, each one a brick in the castle of lies he'd built. His voice, calm and convincing, as he promised Rachel they were just a few months away from a clean separation. Then another, calling me his path to influence. He didn't love either of us. He loved control. Back in the office, Zoe sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by screens, piecing together a digital map of his deceit. He's got dummy companies, offshore accounts, ghost employees. Elise leaned over her shoulder, her voice ice. You were his smokescreen. He needed someone like you to make everything look legitimate. Zoe glanced up, so what's the plan? I stared at the wall, then at the flash drive in my hand. Now, I said, a slow grin spreading across my face. Now we play his games, but we play it better. Because when you know someone's pattern, you can predict their next move. And when they think you're still licking your wounds. That's when you strike, but here's the thing. How do you beat someone who has no conscience? What if he's willing to destroy everything, even himself, just to win? The night I finalized my plan, Seattle was soaked in rain, not the soft, poetic kind. The violent, bone-rattling storm that made every drop on the window sound like a warning. I stood by my desk in silence, eyes tracing the city lights, listening to the hum of the storm and the sharper, more dangerous hum in my chest. That was the sound of purpose returning. Elise was sprawled on the couch behind me, flipping through Brandon's old Instagram posts like she was deciphering a puzzle. Do you notice how he always uses the word alignment? She muttered. It's like his fake moral compass. Zoe chimed in without looking up from her laptop. He's still pushing his new condo project online, and guess what? He's using fake influencers to hype it up. I traced one of the accounts. It's run out of a server in Moldova. Of course it was. Brandon had always been good at illusions. A magician with just enough charm to make you forget he'd emptied your pockets. But what he didn't realize was this. When you spend your life lying online, you forget how traceable everything is. People think social media is fleeting. They're wrong. Every comment, every tag, every story archived by someone somewhere was a breadcrumb. And I was going to follow each one until it led straight to his unraveling. I pulled out my old notebooks, yes, the paper kind, and began sketching the web. At the center, Brandon Walsh. Connected to fake real estate companies, an investment fund that never existed, ghost partners, and now, 2 women he manipulated into playing roles in his empire. Rachel had given me the recordings. Zoe had the digital links. Elise had her psychological insight, but I needed one more piece. I needed an audience. That's where Layla came in. She was a former client, a lifestyle influencer turned anti-scam advocate after exposing a fraudulent brand partnership that nearly ruined her. With 3.4 million followers and a personal vendetta against shady businessmen, she was perfect. We met at an old bookstore cafe on Capitol Hill where she was leafing through a biography of con artists. The irony was poetic. "You're asking me to post this," she said, listening to one of the audio clips I'd brought. "No. I'm asking you to tell the truth," I replied, authentically like you always do. Layla tapped her fingers on the table. "What's the angle?" "He used my name to validate his fake companies. My firm, my face. And he's not just cheating on women, he's defrauding investors. I have enough to suggest securities fraud." Her eyes sharpened. "So not just personal, it's criminal." I nodded, "But it starts with people caring. And that starts with exposure." She smiled, slow and fierce. "Let's make him internet famous." That was the moment the plan became real. We called it Operation Glass House. The concept was simple. Expose Brandon using the very platforms he used to manipulate. Turn the mirror on him. Let the same digital arena he used to control the narrative become the court where he would crumble. We started small. Layla posted a cryptic TikTok video titled, "When the Real Estate Guru Isn't Even Real." It featured nothing but a montage, Brandon's voice saying, "Perception is reality," paired with screenshots of shell companies and blurred images of his emails. It hit 400,000 views in 2 hours. The comments were a wildfire. Then came Zoe's masterpiece, a website called truthinfacade.com, polished, professional. Designed like an exposé magazine, it hosted timelines, connections, and quotes from the anonymous 2 women manipulated by the same man. We didn't name names, not yet, we let curiosity ferment. The media picked it up on day 3. A small digital news outlet featured a piece titled, "Influencer Scandal May Uncover Real Estate Fraud." That was enough. By the weekend, Brandon's team reached out to me. First came a cold email from his new assistant, asking for a clarification meeting. Then a voicemail, "Madison, hey, we should talk. This is spiraling. I'm sure we can work something out." He sounded tired, pressed. A voice trying to hold the roof down while the walls cracked. But I wasn't done yet, because I knew what the public needed now, a face. So I gave them mine. I posted a video on my agency's page, clean backdrop, no makeup. No drama, just my voice. I believed in someone who used my name, my business, and my love to deceive not just me but others. I've stayed silent, but silence protects predators. It went viral overnight. Thousands of messages flooded in. Some from women who knew him, one from a former intern of his who said he made her sign an NDA before she ever saw a contract. Even Rachel texted me after it aired. "You just broke him more than I ever could." But there was still one moment I hadn't shared. The flashback that had haunted me from the beginning. 6 months before the proposal, I found a piece of paper in his car. A property deed in Rachel's name. When I asked him, he laughed, said it was old paperwork from a client's divorce. I believed him. Now I understood, that moment, that single flash of doubt, I had buried it. Chosen not to see it. If that revenge hit just right, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more epic comebacks and justice-served stories. Drop a comment below. I'd love to know what you would have done in their place. I included that in my next post. Sometimes we lie to ourselves louder than anyone else can. Layla commented, "You're setting a whole generation free." But deep down, I wasn't doing this for them, or for Rachel, or even for my business. I was doing it because I needed to know that my silence didn't mean consent. That choosing dignity didn't mean defeat, but I knew what was coming next. The press, the lawsuits, the real fallout. And I had one more move to make, because if Brandon thought digital shame was the end, he hadn't seen what happened when the legal system caught up. It was the silence that got to him, not the noise Brandon could handle. He knew how to swim through scandals like a sleek shark, cutting, smiling, twisting every truth until it was just fiction wearing a new suit. But silence was unpredictable. It meant people were thinking, watching, connecting dots. And when he walked into the quarterly real estate roundtable, a place where he used to be treated like royalty, he was met not with applause but eyes. Silent, calculating eyes. He called me that evening. First time since everything exploded online. "Madison," he said, the same velvet tone he used the night he said "I love you" for the first time. "We should clear the air. All of this, it's gotten out of hand." I kept my voice steady. "Out of hand, you mean people finally know who you are." He chuckled, "You're hurt, I understand that, but you're not thinking long-term, you're destroying both of us." "No," I replied, "I'm disinfecting the wound. You're just the infection." Then I hung up. The next morning we struck. Elise and Zoe met me at the office early. The kind of early where the city was still yawning, but the sky had already turned the color of resolve. Zoe plugged in her laptop, eyes gleaming. "We've mapped everything. The shell companies, the fake testimonials, the false promises, ready." I nodded, "Send it." The press release went out to every major business outlet. Alongside it, Layla posted a full exposé video. This time with voice distortions of interviews from former interns, Rachel's blurred-out recordings, and damning screenshots of forged investment documents. Every lie Brandon had wrapped himself in began to unravel like cheap thread in the wind. Within hours, his biggest investor, Caro and Pike Capital, released a statement suspending all collaboration. But we weren't done. Elise had a copy of a signed affidavit from Rachel detailing emotional and financial manipulation during their marriage, complete with transaction logs showing Brandon funneling company money into personal luxury items labeled as business development. We slipped that into the hands of a business journalist Brandon once schmoozed on a golf course. It was poetic, and still I kept one last card tucked away. The server logs. Zoe had traced Brandon's burner Reddit account to an IP address that connected straight back to his office. That meant the slander he'd spread about me and about others was actionable, so I filed defamation, business sabotage, fraud. The court date was set, 3 weeks away. In the meantime, I had one more move. He was still running a webinar. A slick pre-recorded thing about real estate mastery, playing every Sunday night. Zoe edited a new version, cutting in clips from Layla's exposé, spliced with lines from the audio files and blinking subtitles that read, "Ask yourself, if he lied about love, what else did he lie about?" We uploaded it from an anonymous account. He didn't even notice until half an hour in. His assistant posted a frantic message in the chat, "Technical difficulties. Please disregard." Too late, the internet never forgets. The comments poured in like a floodgate had opened. "This guy's finished." So this is what Madison Clark warned us about. I trusted him with $50K. I want it back. Meanwhile, back at the agency, we were oddly calm. Business was returning. Clients who had left were now apologizing. Even a major brand reached out for a campaign built around integrity and truth. Elise was reviewing the new partnership terms when she said, "He's going to retaliate, you know that, right?" "He can try," I answered, "but he's reacting now. I'm still controlling the board." And that's exactly what I wanted. To keep him guessing, panicking, making mistakes, because revenge isn't about rage, it's about rhythm. Zoe started laughing suddenly, looking at her phone. "You've got to see this." She showed me Brandon's Instagram. He had posted a black and white selfie with a quote, "Sometimes the strongest souls are those who have been misunderstood." Elise snorted, "So now he's the victim." I smiled, "Let him play philosopher. The court won't care for poetry." Then the real shock dropped. We received a subpoena from Brandon. He was suing me, claiming defamation, loss of income, and emotional distress. I read it twice and then again. "Elise," I said calmly. "Yep. Does it still count as irony if the narcissist tries to sue the woman he publicly cheated on and defrauded?" She smirked, in his mind probably. But what Brandon didn't realize was that this move, it played right into our hands. Because the court loves documentation. And documentation was something I now had in abundance. Emails, financial trails, phone recordings, whistleblower statements, wire transfers, his whole illusion held together by threads I had quietly been gathering for months. I wasn't angry, I was surgical. And as I stood in that storm once again, this time not outside but in the center of it, I felt something strange. Not peace, not satisfaction. Brandon thought this was the beginning of his counterattack. But it wasn't. It was the beginning of his exposure in court, and once the courtroom lights came on, there would be no shadows left for him to hide in. The courtroom was cold. Not in temperature, but in tone, a sterile, solemn silence that clung to the walls like judgment itself. No filters, no hashtags, just wood-paneled truth and the weight of every lie ever told. I walked in wearing navy. Not because I needed to, because he always did, a final twist of the knife. Brandon sat at the defense table, shoulders stiff, jaw locked. He was still handsome, still put together, but something had changed. His charisma looked desperate now, like a stage actor who kept performing after the audience had left. He didn't meet my eyes. Good. My attorney, Evelyn Sharp, stood beside me, early 40s, no nonsense, and with the deadliest kind of calm. She flipped through the files like a surgeon checking her instruments. "You ready?" she whispered. "I've been ready since the ring," I replied. The judge, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for hating theatrics, called the room to order. The air snapped with tension. Brandon's lawyer started first. "Your Honor, my client has suffered significant damage to his reputation and business as a result of defamatory actions taken by Miss Clark." Evelyn didn't even blink. She stood when it was her turn and handed the judge a stack of binders. Contained in these documents are email trails, financial records, and first-hand witness statements proving the plaintiff engaged in deceptive practices, business fraud, and character defamation against my client. "This isn't a defamation case, Your Honor, it's a cover-up." And just like that, the tone shifted. The first witness was Rachel. She walked to the stand in a simple black dress, posture poised. Her voice didn't waver once. "He told me he needed my name on the account for tax purposes, said the money was to expand the brand. I believed him, until I saw Madison's face in a magazine wearing the same necklace he gave me on our anniversary." Brandon's lawyer tried to discredit her. "Isn't it true that you were emotionally unstable during this period?" Rachel raised an eyebrow. "I was married to Brandon, of course I was emotionally unstable." Laughter broke out softly around the courtroom. Even the judge cracked a smile. Next was Zoe. She came armed with a laptop, HDMI cable in hand. She projected the server logs on the court screen like a school teacher exposing a cheat sheet. "These are the Reddit posts traced back to Brandon's office. Same Wi-Fi fingerprint, same login patterns, it's all there." Brandon started shifting in his seat, then Elise testified. She laid out the psychological profile like an autopsy. He gaslit Madison, isolated her professionally, and when he felt control slipping, he sabotaged her reputation using the very skills she taught him. Then it was my turn. I took the stand, my hands were steady, my voice clear. I didn't want revenge, I wanted truth, but when I realized he was using me to prop up a fraudulent empire, I had a choice. Protect myself or let others fall victim too. Brandon's lawyer tried one last move. "Miss Clark, isn't it true you launched a public smear campaign?" "I launched a defense," I said. "And when people came forward with their own stories, I listened, something Brandon never did." Then Evelyn delivered the final blow. A bank statement showing a wire transfer labeled consulting fee sent from Brandon's company to an influencer just days before they posted a glowing review of his newest project. "Undisclosed paid endorsement, Your Honor, violation of FTC regulations, and this is just one of several." Brandon's face cracked for the first time, his lips tightened, hands clenched. Gone was the charm, gone was the polish. All that was left was panic. The courtroom sat in silence as the judge reviewed everything. Then she spoke. "In light of the evidence presented, the court finds that Mr. Walsh did, in fact, engage in deceptive practices and defamatory actions. Miss Clark's actions are hereby deemed justified as a response to said behavior." Brandon's lawyer whispered something to him. He didn't move. I stood, gathering my notes. My phone buzzed in my purse. Layla had already posted. "Justice tastes like truth served cold. Madison won." As I stepped outside, the air felt different. It wasn't just over, it was dismantled. Everything he built cracked open in public view like a rotten fruit cut in half. And yet a strange calm sat inside me. Not pride, not relief, but something quieter, like peace laced with purpose, because yes, I had won. But the real question was, after everything he lost, how much further could Brandon fall? The fall wasn't sudden. It was slow, brutal in its unraveling, like a tower collapsing beam by beam, dignity crumbling before the structure. A week after the verdict, Brandon's luxury office in downtown Seattle, glass walls, gold signage, and a sleek espresso bar, was emptied overnight. Rumors swirled. His employees left in clusters, some with boxes, others with nothing but their silence. Zoe had a friend in real estate who confirmed it. The lease had been terminated, defaulted. The crash echoed louder than any announcement could. His social media vanished. Instagram wiped clean, Twitter deactivated, LinkedIn scrubbed. The digital ghost of a man who once lived through screens was now nowhere to be seen. Then came the headlines. Former real estate mogul sued for fraud and defamation. Brandon Walsh assets frozen pending investigation. He was unrecognizable now. Paparazzi caught a blurry photo of him outside a courthouse in a wrinkled suit, hair uncombed, eyes hollow. The caption was merciless, "From empire to exile." It should have felt satisfying. It didn't. I watched from my office as the media dissected him, but something inside me resisted the urge to celebrate. Elise called it survivor's guilt. I called it clarity. He's not done lying. she said one evening, sipping tea as we watched the news together. People like Brandon don't stop, they just adapt. She wasn't wrong. 3 days later, he tried to publish a Medium article under a pseudonym, The Misunderstood Man, My Side of the Story. He painted himself as the casualty of cancel culture, a victim of ambition. The article made the rounds briefly, then disappeared under pressure from legal threats and fact-checkers. Still, it was a reminder, truth may win, but delusion doesn't go quietly. Zoe walked into my office not long after, holding her tablet. You need to see this. It was an email from Brandon. Subject line, apology, no greeting, no name, just a single sentence. I never thought you'd be the one to beat me. I stared at it for a while, then deleted it, because I didn't beat him. He exposed himself, I just turned the lights on. Rachel moved to Denver. She sent me a message on Instagram before she left. Thank you for giving me the strength to stop believing him. Layla started a podcast about digital manipulation. She asked me to guest on the first episode. I agreed. The episode was titled, Pretty Words, Ugly Truths. In it, I said something I hadn't realized until it left my lips. I spent so long trying to be the woman he saw me as, smart, graceful, useful. But the truth is, I became someone far stronger the day I stopped needing his vision of me. The comments poured in. Women, men, survivors. People who had been gaslit, misled, used. They didn't just want a story. They wanted to feel less alone. That was the real victory. And Brandon, he was last seen in a town 2 hours south applying for a consulting gig with a new name. But word spreads fast. His reputation preceded him now, not the one he built but the one we exposed. No more investors, no more loyal clients. His house went up for auction. His mother, once so proud, released a quiet statement. We hope he finds the help he needs. He lost everything: money, power, legacy, but the worst loss, the spotlight. And in that silence I found something unexpected, not vengeance, closure. It's strange how life feels different when you're no longer surviving, just living. I kept the ring, not because it meant anything anymore, but because it reminded me of who I used to be. I had it melted down, reshaped into a thin bracelet. On the inside I engraved 3 words, I choose me. The agency bounced back stronger than I expected. Clients who once doubted me returned with quiet apologies. New ones came in, drawn by the story, the resilience, the proof that I stood for truth, even when it cost me everything. Elise launched a mental health initiative for women in high-pressure careers. Zoe became head of digital strategy, her instincts sharper than ever. Rachel and I talk occasionally. We're not friends, not really, but we share something deeper than friendship, survival, and me. I was offered a teaching position, an ethics course in digital branding at the university. I took it, because power isn't just in what you do, it's in what you teach others to never allow again. At the end of my first lecture, a student raised her hand and asked, "How do you trust people again after they break you?" I paused, then said, "You don't start by trusting others. You start by trusting that no matter what they do, you'll still have yourself." She smiled, and as the class emptied out, I glanced down at my bracelet. No headlines, no applause, just peace. That was the real ending, not the destruction of a man, but the rebuilding of a woman.